Sup my lovely bushes, welcome back to the channel. My voice is completely shot, so don't worry about me. I'm not sick or anything. I'm actually in a very good mood, but I sound fucking terrible. Today we're gonna break down the patch notes that just came out for Dragon Ball FighterZ. This next patch is gonna change a bunch of mechanics. There are no character balances, but there are mechanic changes that will affect every single character in Dragon Ball FighterZ. We're gonna go for these notes one by one and check out what they might mean in-game. Now, obviously, some of these might be wrong because once the patch comes out, we'll be able to actually test this stuff out for ourselves. But when the patch comes out, I'm most likely going to be busy with characters, and that's why I'm doing this before the patch even comes out. Still, most of these patch notes are pretty obvious, so even if we're wrong, you'll get a good idea of what's going to change and how that's going to affect the whole overall game. First note we have is recoverable health. The amount of recoverable health left after taking damage has been reduced with the exception of invisible attacks. So, as you notice, Android 16's health here, after the combo is over, you can see that there's some blue health left, right? So there will be less blue health. This is in line with what they said about making matches faster, because you'll be able to recover less health than you were before, meaning every damage that is dealt is now more permanent than it was pre-patch. There is an exception though, which is combos that start with invincible attacks. If you start a combo with an invincible attack like Gohan's DP here, you will notice that no matter what you do after that attack, all the health lost by this combo is blue. It is fully recoverable, and this is something that is most likely not going to change. If you get hit by a raw level 3 or if you get hit by a DP followed by a combo, you will be able to recover all of that health. Next up is a change to the key gauge that you gain when you're getting hit. Notice Android 16's key gauge here. You can see that it's raising as Gohan beats his face, and then Gohan does his level 3 super, and it's gonna raise even more. Now, the change is the amount of meter that you gain while you're getting hit, it's gonna actually be buffed. You're gonna get more meter as you're getting hit by a normal combo, but it's gonna be nerfed when you get hit by a super, so that in final level 3 at the end there, it's gonna give you less meter than it did before. Also very interesting, after using meter, any character will just have a set period of time where meter gain is reduced. So if you use meter on an EX move or a super, there will be a period of time where you just won't generate as much meter. The next patch note is about smash moves. As long as the proper conditions are fulfilled, smash moves will have their cinematic camera animation regardless of height. I honestly don't know what this means. So we're gonna move on to some pretty big change, a pretty big meta changing patch note. Invincible moves cannot call assist or ultimate Z change unless the move hits. So you've seen Kazunoko do this a lot. He DPs into Yamcha assist. This will no longer be possible. You cannot DP into an assist unless the DP actually hits. You can still put it in combos, so if you want to DP into assist, that's fine. But if the opponent blocks it, you are just unsafe. You cannot ultimate Z change, you cannot use assists. That just gives DPs a lot more weight, like you need to read your opponent. You can no longer be safe after DPing. Up next we have a change that is actually going to encourage the use of EX moves, because EX moves are now going to deal more permanent damage. That means they're just going to reduce the amount of blue health that they leave behind. With the exception of invulnerable attacks, once again, those remain unchanged, and this is just going to encourage the use of EX moves, which, outside of some very specific characters, EX moves are actually very underused in my opinion. So we'll see how much this actually increases the amount of EX moves in combos and even in neutral. This next one is a very, very big one. Supers. All hits after a super that aren't ultimate Z change supers will do less damage, with the exception of specific supers. And made it easier to for ultimate Z change supers to combo. So the easier part has to do with what they talked about, wanting to have more team combinations be possible. So if you launch a super and follow up with another assist, it will be easier to chain those supers together, opening up the possibilities for new team comps, for just, you know, new synergies. But the big deal here is that all hits after a super that aren't an ultimate Z change, those are going to be nerfed, which means double supers are probably going to die, with the exception of some very specific supers. So for instance, Gotenks here, he can set up the ghosts and then Gohan can go for a double super. So this would deal the same damage, the ghosts are going to deal the same damage, this super deals the same damage, this second one is nerfed though, because that is a super that is not an ultimate Z change. This affects other characters, obviously. I'm thinking about Goku, though Goku might be one of those exceptions. He can double super by himself. He throws the Kamehameha downwards. This second Kamehameha might be nerfed. Now, he can Ultimate Z change after this, and maybe that damage remains the same, so it could still be worth it. But still, it might be nerfed. A lot of these characters' double supers might be nerfed. Here, we have Kid Buu. This deals the same damage. Android 16 deals the same damage. This second Android 16 doesn't deal. This would be nerfed, but then the Goku level 3 is an Ultimate Z change, so it will deal the same damage. Overall, I think this is a big nerf to Bardock, who can just launch 3 level 1 supers no problem. I believe he will be the most affected character by this change. Potentially even Yamcha level 1 into level 3. We'll see. Speaking of level 3s, various level 3s have been affected for minimum damage. They're going to deal more minimum damage. I think this is going to be a buff to characters like Gotenks, for instance. His level 3 deals very little damage, and Gotenks can land 1,000 hits before his level 3, so the scaling will be at maximum. So a small buff to a few select level 3s. And then we have some changes to sparking. Now, the ability to spark while in block stun has been added, which means that if you're taking the pressure, if you're just blocking, you'll be able to just use Sparking Blast, even if you're blocking in the air. So it kind of works like a guard cancel, except a guard cancel, you cannot do it in the air, so it's even better. They made Sparking Blast an even better defensive option. You don't have to wait for that little gap to activate it anymore. Also, while in sparking, the amount of recoverable damage you deal to the opponent has been decreased, so less blue health, more permanent damage. That is straight up a Sparking Blast buff, again with the exception of invincible attacks. Also, other than when done during a combo, sparking has a slower startup. So sparking combos are still possible, they're still going to be the same thing, but if you just do Sparking Blast in neutral, it's going to have a slower startup, which means if it's done recklessly, it might be even easier to punish. Next, we have a change to Vanish. It made it easier to get the camera animation when Vanish is done during an attack. We've all done this. We've all thrown a Ki Blast and then vanished to get that wall bounce, and sometimes the wall bounce doesn't happen. You know, the timing difference is very small, and apparently it will just be easier now to get that camera animation. Next up, we have a buff to Z Reflect that sounds more like a nerf to Sparking Blast. I didn't see this used that often, but basically, if you reflect an opponent's move and they react with Sparking Blast, your reflect will now be invulnerable to it, meaning you can actually punish it. I've seen some people saying that, oh, you can now reflect Sparking Blast. No. The patch notes clearly says that made reflect invincible to Sparking Blast after it has caught and reflected an opponent's move. So you gotta reflect something before the Sparking Blast comes through. So it's not as big of a change that, oh, Sparking Blast is now reflectable. No, it's just if the opponent sees the reflect and reacts with a Sparking Blast, you're going to be able to punish. Next up is the sense of deja vu. Various Dragon Rushes, or various throws in Dragon Rushes made it impossible to land multiple ones in one combo. I've seen this patch before. I've seen this patch note before where they said, okay, you cannot land more than one Dragon Rush per combo. Apparently, there are still some exceptions where you can do it. Maybe this time it's for real. Also, various throws, there's some concerns for 16, but 16 is fine. Every throw that he puts in a combo is a different throw, so he will be completely fine. Don't worry about 16. Still talking about Dragon Rushes, less meter gain and damage on hits. So Dragon Rush straight up nerfed. Less damage, less meter gain. And if it's used in a combo, all hits after will not have their camera animation. And there's a translator note that says, aka they will lose the smash property. But the thing is, if it's used in a combo, it already doesn't have the smash property. So what this might be is just that the slight camera pan might not happen when you use Dragon Rush in a combo. It might just be an animation change. Up next, Air Dragon Rush. This is very interesting. This is actually a big buff. If used in a combo, it will slide knock down the opponent. So the thing about team compositions, a lot of people would put assists that allow them to Dragon Rush an opponent at the end of a combo. And this had to be a ground Dragon Rush, so you can throw a special and a super afterwards. Because if you caught the opponent with an aerial Dragon Rush, you would just drop the combo. The opponent can just tech after that. It's very easy to escape. This change makes it so you can actually use other assists to finish your combos, because if you finish a combo with an aerial Dragon Rush, you will slide knock down your opponent, and that's a big buff. Next up, we have some guard cancel changes. Added invincibility up until the move hits or gets close to the opponent. I think this is to counter the vanishing, to actually counter the guard cancel. So you see this a lot in competitive when someone guard cancels, the opponent immediately vanishes, and the timing is hard to get down right, but if you do get it right, some characters can actually combo from this, and that is just too big of a punish. So now the guard cancel will be invincible until it hits the opponent. That doesn't mean it's safer, because if the opponent blocks it, this actually has increased recovery and landing recovery, so doing something like this will actually be a lot easier after the patch. Then we have a change to the grounded backdash. Grounded only, the aerial backdash won't change, but the ground backdash will increase travel speed, so just be faster. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna feel this a lot after blocking a Vanish. Backdashing will be a lot faster, so we're gonna have to study all the options that we have after that. But backing off from your opponent should now be safer during a block string or during whatever. Shenron receives some buffs. Characters will be revived with more health, and if you choose health regeneration, the health will also regenerate faster. I don't think this changes much, to be honest. But also, every time Shenron is summoned, I just see people picking Sparking Blast, so hey, maybe they'll pick something else now. And then we have some changes to the tech. Ground tech in place, it made it more difficult for airborne opponents to apply pressure from the stack option. So if you just ground tech, you are safer from aerial options. I picked the wrong character here because Gotenks is short, so he's pretty safe from aerial options after a ground tech. But yeah, just overall, you'll be safer if the opponent jumps and you ground tech. And then you have a pretty big one. I think this one will be a pretty big change with ground tech delay. So if you delay the ground tech, you just kind of stand up from it. You can't really up tech or back tech after it. And now, after you delay tech, you'll be able to choose which tech to go for. You can go in place, you can back tech, you can up tech, which just gives you more teching options, and that's just great to get out of O-key pressure. The translator says that this was already possible, but the timing must be crazy because I never saw this happen. And finally, we have a small change to dramatic finishes, which just makes the dramatic finishes activate when Vanish kills and not just the 5H, which was already the case for Frieza, for instance, because his 5H is weird, so the way you activate his dramatic is by vanishing. But hey, overall, that's just gonna make dramatic finishes a thing that is easier to trigger. And that's okay in my book. And those are the patch notes, folks. Look forward to a character breakdown for Jiren and Videl. We're gonna have the breakdowns here on the channel for sure. In the meantime, if you'd like to sponsor some medicine for my throat and voice recovery, you can become a premium member. There are links for that in the description down below. Join us on Discord, and you can watch some exclusive content and participate in some community tournaments. But as always, thank you very much for watching. My name's Globku, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.